Coming up in this week's episode.
I saved myself. And
Yes, you bloody did.
there's a
Say that again, like proudly. Like you saved
I saved
yourself.
myself.
Welcome to The Liberation Effect with me, your host, Helen Villas. Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Liberation Effect. Today I'm joined by Lola. Lola got in touch after experiencing some really unfair and quite gross treatment from her own family when she experienced divorce, but wanted to look at how she could move on to other romantic relationships, get some coping strategies, and just know that she's in that space. Lola, I'm going to throw it to you because I always try and summarize this and feel like maybe it's better coming from my guest. What is it that you are here for today and looking to leave with today?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's really
Such a
nice to be
pleasure.
able to have a conversation where I'm able to have access to professional, information on something like this. It can be really hard to talk to people and get support when situations like this are as complicated and complex as they are. I think for me, definitely the biggest thing is navigating relationships, not even just romantically, but also platonically with
Sure.
people when it's not many people can relate to you in life.
Yeah.
Not many people can relate to not necessarily having a support system in place. It can be really difficult to also navigate myself through all of that and not kind of experience those feelings of envy and looking at other people that do have those support systems and kind of, I don't know, feel some type of way about that. I really try not to feel negativity towards it because I understand everyone has their own life and own story, but it can just be very difficult, I guess, the acceptance of it all. And I really want to learn how to break away from not necessarily a victim mindset, because I really try not to live with that, but just I don't want to keep asking myself the question like, why me? Why me? Why me? I want to be able to just move through with life and be able to find healthy ways to form further relationships with people without always feeling a void and operating from a place of lack.
It's really interesting. So you get stuck in a place with the why me? And can you just tell me a little bit more about what might provoke that, or what question, why me what? What is it that you're trying to answer?
Like, I guess, why am I in this situation? Why am I not deserving of that love? Why am I not deserving of support? Why am I needing to fend for myself and walk through life without that feeling of safety and security? Because I've been in many different situations in life throughout my entire life where I really, maybe one or two people I've come across where we've opened up to one another and they've confided in me about their struggles. And I just honestly, I know everyone has their own struggles, but I've genuinely not come across anyone that's been able to relate to the extremity of my situation, and it's very lonely. So I always find
Sure.
myself asking, why me then? Why did I end up being in this situation? And I don't want to ask myself that question.
Is it like a what have I done to deserve this?
Yeah.
Okay. Or what's wrong with me
Yeah,
even?
definitely. I guess I do find myself in a lot of situations thinking, am I the problem? Am I the common denominator
Sure.
here, that I'm always in a situation where I'm alone and I don't really have people in my corner? So it makes me then question myself. And I guess it just completely reiterates the whole cycle that I grew up in, and from the situations I've been in, being made to feel like I'm the problem, and then I start to believe that I am. And I guess that can then further implicate any further relationship I have, because then I'm already going into it with this negative mindset that, well, this person's just going to leave and this person's going to see my flaws and see my life and think it's a problem or a burden. And it's just, yeah, this repetitive cycle, I guess, that always happens, and I really want to break free from that.
Okay. You said that this situation, why am I in this situation? Do you mind giving a bit of context to what the situation is?
Yeah, so I was I was in a long-term relationship that I got into from a really young age, and it had been my only relationship in my entire life. I was somebody who was very driven on wanting to do well for myself in life because I had a really tough upbringing, and I felt like that was my
Mm,
only way out to be successful and do well for myself. And I grew up in quite a strict family as well, so in terms of relationships and things, it wasn't something I was ever really given freedom to explore. Um,
right.
and I eventually found myself meeting someone. They came into my life, presented themselves as Prince Charming, and I thought I was very smart at the time. I was very young, I was only a teenager, and that
Mm,
relationship ended up being one of the biggest things that caused me more trauma, I guess, than I had already experienced in
really.
life. I gave that relationship everything. We got engaged, we got married, and I stayed in that relationship even after he had cheated and there were so many problems. And I
Mm-hmm.
recognize now, being in my later 20s, that I was very vulnerable at the time. I was operating from a place of lack, even in that relationship, because I came from a dysfunctional family home where there wasn't much
Right.
love present and my self-esteem was very low. And he kind of said all the right things and did all the right things. But I think we were very much trauma bonded from when he had cheated. And even
Mm-hmm.
though he had cheated, he wouldn't let me go. And he was very manipulative as well. So I tried to leave many times. It wasn't as though I wasn't aware of my self-worth.
Mm,
I did try to leave countless times, but he always found a way to rope me back in or find a way
right.
to keep me there. And I just felt like I was very helpless and very powerless, to the point where we ended up getting married. And I thought in my head, getting married would have maybe been a solution to fix a lot of our problems. And he also was providing me with, I guess, care and attention and affection that I wasn't receiving anywhere else.
Mm,
So
mm-hmm.
it was almost like picking the lesser of two evils, I guess. And that was, I
Sure.
guess, an escape from family life. And so I did settle for that love, even though it wasn't really love, and even though I was still hurting for majority of that relationship,
Mm,
because it was better than what my situation was with family. And even throughout that marriage, we encountered so many more problems. There were problems with in-laws, and it was just, I think I reached a point where after being in that relationship for almost, like, 7 years of my life, I was coming up to my mid-20s, and I just hit a wall where I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I really felt
mm,
like I lost myself in that relationship. I couldn't recognize who I was in the mirror. I always grew up being a very caring person, and anyone who knew my personality knew I was very sensitive, very caring, very compassionate. And I just felt like I lost all those qualities. I became angry. I became somebody that was irritated really easily by things.
mm,
Something would happen that in another person's eyes might be a small thing, but it bugged me so much I couldn't let it go.
right.
Just angry all the time and just always arguing all the
Who
time
to?
towards
Angry to who?
towards my partner at the
You,
time.
yeah, right. And but with other people?
No, with other people I was okay. I just found myself with him. I had no patience for anything. But I know it's because,
Looking back, what do you think now? Yeah, go on. Sorry,
yeah, I
you were going
think
to
it's
say.
because I had already dealt with so much that I just had nothing left to give. And I felt like I
Mm,
stayed and stayed and stayed after so many things happened. And then when more things would happen, it just brought this anger. Like, I just didn't understand why. I guess he couldn't get it right. And he was very aware of many of the issues that we faced. And I would sit down and speak to him and say, this is exactly what my issue is. This is how I'm feeling. I couldn't spell
mm-hmm,
it out more than I could. This is how I feel like we could fix it. And he was very much somebody that would brush things under the carpet. So it was like, oh, it's fine. Oh, it's fine. I'm like, no, it's not fine though, because it's
mm-hmm,
causing issues between. It's
mm-hmm,
not fine. No, it's fine. No, it's fine. No, it's fine. So I feel like as those problems built up, because they were never
mm-hmm,
addressed, I eventually became a shell of a person. I felt like I wasn't heard, I wasn't seen.
mm-hmm.
And then everything I felt at home, I was then feeling in my marriage. And
Interesting.
I think I grew up without a father. I grew up in a single family household. And when I was
Right.
experiencing feelings in my marriage where I wasn't feeling protected, I wasn't feeling like secure, I wasn't feeling like I was being looked after, where he was allowing external people to disrespect me. He was allowing external situations to affect us. I then had to think about, okay, if I brought children into this, if he can't protect me,
Mm,
how would my children be protected? And
mm.
for me, I just thought I can't repeat the cycle that I grew up in. I can't repeat the cycle that I grew up in where I didn't have protection and where there were constant issues. And I had to really make a decision, not just for me, but for my future children, that
Yeah.
if I made this something much deeper than what it is right now, then I'm stuck forever. And I thought
It's amazing that you had that insight.
I feel like my childhood
Genuinely.
gave me that insight. I had to grow up a lot faster than
I'm going to stop you. I'm going to pause you. I'm going to say it again. And I'm going to ask you to think about, just pause before you respond.
Mhm.
Because do you know what you did? I said, it's amazing you had that insight and you almost dismissed it out of the park. You went to, it's because of my childhood, instead of, thank you. What would it have
Mhm.
been like to say thank you? Just to receive it, just to hear that you did something really good. It's emotional. What's happening right now?
I feel like I'm aware that that decision that I had to make was a really brave decision to make. I
Yeah,
actually
really
am really
brave.
aware of that, but no one else saw it that way. And I've not really heard many people
Oh,
say that that was a good thing for me to do. So
it was an amazing thing to do. Truly amazing. Like making me emotional. I'm just thinking the fact that you were so alone with that, the bravery and the courage that that took to deny yourself the children that you might have wanted, that might have made it feel like maybe it will be better if I'm a parent. You know, maybe there's a, because we can fall into that trap very easily, that if I have children, I'll be able to cope because I'll get all the love I need and give it all to the kids. But actually, what you realised was that that would not be good for them or indeed you. And you put your unborn, non existent children ahead of yourself and realised that it would not be a good thing. And that is a phenomenal amount of insight and awareness.
thank you.
How did that feel to say thank you?
No, it felt nice.
Good. There's something very powerful about being seen when you've been in this mire of awfulness. And, you know, what you said on your form about getting divorced and then ending up homeless because you weren't getting any support from your family, and yet your siblings had been supported through divorce. And I mean, it just as a human being, that's vile, but as a parent, that's even more vile. Like the idea that your child is going through one of the most stressful things they could ever go through, you know, bereavement, being bereaved. Then it's so in terms of stressors, if I remember from a very, very long time ago, and it may well have changed, the top three stressors are going through bereavement, as in widowhood, loss of a partner, then it's divorce, then it's moving house. And you went through that and were left alone with it. And that is disgusting. That's so awful from their point of view. But for you, the grief of that is horrific.
Honestly, sometimes I have moments where I can't believe I survived it just because of
Mm,
how intense it all was. And genuinely going through that situation alone, for me, there was two options in front of me. It was either I keep going and I keep fighting for my life because no one else is fighting for me, or death.
mm,
Because what were my other two? What that
right.
was it really. And I don't know how, but I chose to fight. And I didn't even have much within me to be able to do that, but I somehow did it. I was just so, I guess, I don't know. I really don't know. when I had come forward and I had made that decision that I couldn't continue in the relationship anymore, everybody in my life was aware. For a long, long, long time, I was not happy. It wasn't as though it was something that was out of the blue or
Mm,
something that was news to everyone. Every single person in my life was aware from the beginning how many issues there were and just how turbulent our whole relationship was. Everyone
mm.
could see we were not happy.
So you weren't
No,
hiding
not at all.
anything,
Everyone knew. So I think that was
right?
also something that was like, why is everybody acting shocked by this? Um,
Right.
also grew up in a home where, as much as it was very, very dysfunctional, and I grew up in quite an abusive home, I was also told in moments that I wouldn't ever be forced to stay in something that I wouldn't want to be in. And eventually, when it came down to me finally making the decision, and I had tried to leave multiple times, I'm talking bags packed, put them in my car,
Mm.
driven back home, and said I was done. I was told to go back each time. Give it another go, give it 6 months, give it 6 months. If things don't change by this point, then fine, leave. And I did that about 2 times, and I gave that marriage a whole extra year than what would have wanted. But I gave it that time so that everyone could see I've given it my all at this point. So when I eventually,
So you're doing it for other people at that point.
sorry,
You're doing it, so you were stayed in it for other
yeah, and
people's
our
benefit,
relationship
not
was
for your
completely
own.
dead. I mean, for at least the last 4 months of that relationship, we were sleeping in separate spaces because I just couldn't even
Right,
bear the sight of him. I couldn't even bear to be in the same room as him.
right,
And he was also somebody that was like, if you give them an inch, they take a mile type of thing. So that was also
right,
really difficult
right.
because I couldn't make it any more clear that I was done and I wasn't in love anymore. I wasn't happy. And I would say I wasn't happy about 1,000 times, but it just wouldn't register. It was like, no, we're fine. Wake up 30 minutes later.
Right.
Oh, let's go get something to eat. I've just told you I don't want to be with you anymore. It was the most
Oh my gosh.
crazy psychological mind game I've ever been a part of in my
Yeah.
entire life.
So this is something that's really, really common where one partner will say to the other, "This is it, it's over," and the other partner, almost gaslights sort of in a really silent way by just pretending the conversation, the statement
Yeah,
hasn't been made. And then they're just like
yeah,
everything's normal and they act like everything's normal, and the person who's made the statement, having summoned all their courage to go, "I'm done, I'm out, this is it, I want a divorce," is kind of left reading going, "Wait, did I not say it
yeah,
out loud? What happened there? Like, why are they doing this?" And it's the reason that they do it is because it took so much courage, because they know that if you have said it, it would have been, yeah, all this courage. But on top of that, that if they pretend you haven't said it, you're not going to have the courage to
hmm,
say it again, or you're unlikely to. And so they pretend you didn't say it to silence you further and to make you think you're going
yeah,
crazy, and which is obviously what gaslighting
yeah.
does. So
I
wow,
definitely
yeah,
feel like it
that
did
was.
drive me to behave in a way that was very erratic and crazy. And I do look
Mm,
back and I
of
see that, and it's
course,
so crazy because I don't recognize that person. That's not me as a person.
no,
And I then had to come forward to my family, and with this part took the most courage because I had to come to them and I had to say, I have become a monster as a result of all of these years in this
right,
relationship. And whilst he wasn't physically abusive, there was so much emotional abuse that was taking place and manipulation over those
mm,
years. And I had to come forward to my family and say, look at how I'm behaving. I have become the monster in this relationship now. He's the calm one. Everyone can look at him
mm,
and think, oh wow, he's such a great person. And then I'm the one seen as the crazy one. And I said, I need to save myself. It's not about him, it's not about anyone else. I need to save myself because
mm,
if I continue down this road, if I continue down this relationship where I can see I'm waking up, I'm behaving in this horrible way, I'm behaving erratic, I'm not being nice to him, and I was
mm,
very aware I wasn't being nice to him. I'm gonna lose myself beyond survival, basically. And I had gone to them with this
right,
desperation that I can't be in this anymore. I need to get as far away from this relationship as possible
mm,
so I can at least save myself in this. So admitting to them some of my behaviors that happened as a result of reacting to everything that I had been through. It wasn't something that I just woke up and I was a horrible person. That
No,
took a lot of
no.
courage for me. And the worst part about all of this was, in the end, everything that I said to them about how I was behaving and that I needed help with was then used against me. And to this day is used against me.
Lola.
And then he was the one that was pitied by everyone. Oh, poor him, poor him.
So
He
he
became
became
the
the
victim. Oh,
victim.
he's so good to her and she's just ungrateful. And he came from a family of wealth. So I didn't as well. And I feel like that was massively used
Okay.
against me in the end as well. It was like, well, what do you have to bring to the table? And these were words said to me by my own mother. Well, what do you have to bring to the table? If
Your mother
yeah.
said
And she
that to you.
said, he's
That's
gorgeous. If
revolt.
any woman would cut off their left arm to take what he was offering. Because in the end, when I
And yet you're saying I'd cut my left arm off
Yeah,
to
because in
take
the
that,
end, when I said I
right?
wanted to leave, he was so desperate to keep me because for him, it was just this whole idea of
Mm,
having his claws in me and keeping me for his own. And he kept saying, "You're mine, you're mine, you're
mm,
mine." That he was then offering, "Oh, you'll never need to work a day in your life anymore. You can have whatever you want," and like throwing all this stuff around. And I'm like, but no, that's not what you actually would want for our
mm,
relationship
mm,
dynamic. You're just saying it to keep me here with you in this cycle.
mm,
Like, I'm not going to accept that, and I'm not
mm,
going to take bribes to stay in this relationship with you. I want to
mm,
be with someone because I love them, and I want to be with someone because they love me.
right.
So when I wasn't accepting this deal that you'll never have to work again, we'll get our own house and all these kind of things that
Mm.
weren't really ever being offered from the beginning, I'm ungrateful for not taking that.
Who was saying
My
that you were
family.
ungrateful? So your family was saying that you were ungrateful because you didn't want to just
Yeah,
have money. And so, and that he
he
was
was,
good
yeah,
looking. And so therefore you should want to be with him, which is, I mean, this sums everything up, right?
yeah.
It's all
This is,
image.
I said
It's all
this,
about
I,
the
I did say
image.
this, and they are so offended that I said this is all about image.
Wow. So there's part of me that's so ragingly furious. So you go to them begging them to hear you. And I really want to notice to you when you were explaining what you had said to them, what your experience was. You're telling them that you're being eroded, that you don't like who you've become with him, that you recognize your behavior is not okay and that you need to change it. And the only way that it's going to change is not being with him. And you know, the imagery is that you're on your knees begging for them to understand and support you. And your mother, your family are, well, what are you bringing to the table? You should be grateful because you can have money and a good looking
Yeah,
man,
essentially.
and not hearing the experience of it. The 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 absolute disregard of your emotional self in that space is clearly going to be representative of your entire life
Yeah.
experience with them. And again, I want to notice the courage of going to them. There is also something for me about there's a sadness that you needed their permission. And I wonder if you could try and talk me through that a little bit of why you felt like you needed their
I think
permission.
this is massively a big part of all of this. It's actually a huge part of it. It's
Okay,
kind of the root of it all because it really signifies my position within the family. I am the middle
okay.
child, and I feel like
Girls?
no, we've got four girls and two boys.
Okay.
I think it's always been a running theme since I was a child where it's almost like really feel like the scapegoat and the black sheep of the family.
Mm-hmm,
My
mm-hmm.
actions, for some reason, compared to everyone else's, have always been magnified beyond belief. But everyone else
Right.
is able to just do whatever they want to do and go along with life, and it's fine. And they could do the most heinous thing and it's just not a big deal. But everything that I have ever done, and I've really not done anything crazy. I've always tried to be a well-behaved child. I've always tried to stay within the guidelines of how I was expected to be growing up. Like I said, I grew up in a very dysfunctional family home, but the home I grew up in, we were not allowed to reveal what was going on at home to anybody in the world. So we were,
Right. Ah, so
yeah,
here's
so
the
we were
image
very much
again.
trained
So,
from
right,
young
okay.
to be the best at school, make sure we get the best grades when we're out in public, be well mannered, well dressed. No one's allowed to see that there's a crack. And we were not allowed to speak up about anything that was happening. So it was a very tight home in that sense. But for some reason, I do always feel like the treatment I received was always very different. And this is something I voiced to them as well. The treatment I received was always just very different. I was always made out to be much worse than what I actually am. Things from my childhood to this day are still held over my head. I'm not allowed to escape anything. I think there was one time in my teenage years
Right.
where I reached out to a family member to let them know what was going on at home because we were experiencing severe abuse, and they don't like to say that that's what it was, but it's what it was. We were
Mm-hmm.
experiencing severe physical, emotional, and mental abuse. And I reached out to a family
Mm.
member just to tell them what was going on. I was in my early teens, I was a baby, I was a child, and it's now 12 years later, and it's still used against me. I'm not allowed to escape the fact that I did
In
that.
what
Like, it's
way?
brought up in arguments that I went to a family member as a result of me going to this family member. It then caused issues with the family because that family member confronted my mum about it, and that's traumatized her.
Right.
So
So hang on.
yeah,
So they, when you get into an argument, how do they use it as a
so I
criticism then?
slag them off. I slag the family off. I lie and I tell people lies, and I've always been like this. And me spreading lies is what caused that to happen all those years ago. In arguments that take
Um.
place, any single thing about me from the day I was born up until now, every single part of my personality is completely picked apart and scrutinized. Things that aren't even relevant to the topic or the conversation that's being had. Every single thing they could say about me to just completely make me feel like my existence is worthless is used.
What does it tell you when people start picking at your character and your personality or past behaviour in an argument? What does
As
it
in,
tell
how does
you?
it make me feel, or what does it tell me about that person?
No, 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 no. Yeah, what does it tell you about them or the situation
I
they
feel like
face?
it's definitely a deflection thing where they're just trying to
100%.
take away from the focus of what the actual topic is at hand. Because, like I said, it's just completely irrelevant to what we're talking
100%.
about, but it's just a way of making me feel like, because they know, especially like I said, with my character growing up, I was someone that was very sensitive, and anything they would say to me, I would listen. I have elder sisters, and anything they would say, I would listen to them like a little
Mm.
puppy dog, thinking I needed their approval and thinking I needed their permission. And so I feel
Mm.
like they know that about me, and I'm very aware of this. They've always used this where because they know their words can get to me, that's their biggest tool
Mm-hmm.
against me.
You know, when somebody's doing this deflection, but particularly when they start talking, like assassinating your character rather than focusing on the topic at hand, it, to me, if I'm in a conflict and that happens, I know that they've lost the argument and they know they've lost. Because if they really believed that their point was still valid, they would be sitting with it, they would be on it still. But when the minute anyone starts going for your character, you've really won the argument. And so I think I'm only saying that because I want to notice to you that they were doing it because they were trying to shut you up. Because whatever you were saying, whatever you were holding them accountable for, was accurate. And they knew it and they didn't want you to continue. So they were trying to force you into defending yourself, which is what deflection is all about. It's about trying to get you to defend yourself so you forget about the main
Hmm.
point that you're holding against them. I'm going to go back to what you said at the beginning about, or earlier, about being a monster with your ex and who you had become and being irritable and angry And I want to notice, and I'm sure you're already aware because you've said this word particularly. What you were describing, I think, was probably
Yeah.
reactive abuse. That thing of, I'm really unhappy. It sounds like you didn't like him
No.
at this point, and you were feeling completely trapped and isolated and not seen, heard, valued, whatever, and with no way out. And so you were angry about it, rightfully so, because that's what happens when we're trapped. Any animal, when pushed into a corner and unable to do it, they go on the attack every time, right? That is all that was happening there. You're right, it wouldn't be you as a person. If that's not who you were, that's why I asked you, was it global? In partly because I wanted to know this
Hmm.
back, like that part, but also if it had been wider spread, it might have just been an indicator that you were so highly activated in survival mode that it was just that you had no capacity. Your jug was overflowing and you had no room for anything else. And so everything was fraying on your last nerve. Doesn't mean we get to be an arse to everybody. And I'm not saying that for a second, but I'm saying that when we're in those states, we're not behaving who we would be if we were grounded
Hmm.
and regulated and safe. We are in survival mode, and that might mean we have to attack in order to survive. So I want to go back, though, to the place of, I asked you about permission seeking, that you were in this really toxic relationship. You could see what was going on. You were really unhappy. And they kept saying, go back. And there's two things I would like to know. And one is, actually, maybe it's just one. I'm going to ask this bit. What was it that finally tipped you to the place where you no longer needed their permission and you said, actually, I've got to go. I can't do this anymore. What was the catalyst for
Um,
that?
I think it was me and him had gotten into an argument. It was a really petty one, but it was an argument
Mm-hmm.
that for me kind of allowed me to make the final decision with him, where he was, not to go too much into detail because I feel like that will just waste time, but it was just to summarize. I had come home from work, he had come home from work, it had been a long day. I was just sat eating some food. We were meant to go to his family's house after for dinner, and he came and sat down next to me, and I was just innocently watching TV and eating food, and he started staring at me, and I could see from the corner of my eye that he was staring. I just tried to ignore it. And then I look at him and I'm, what are you looking at? And then he was like, You're chewing a bit loud there." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "You're chewing abnormally loud." And he would make these recurring comments about me whenever I would be sat eating, and I would, not
Mm-hmm.
that it sounds so silly even having to explain that I chew like a normal person, but
No, it's
I
not
think he had done
silly.
that so many times that it was literally after, and many other huge other things had happened, but that was like the final thing where I was like, I am not doing this anymore. And I had obviously made the decision that night specifically. I think I was already at the end, but I made the decision that I'm not doing this anymore. That ended up leading into a huge other argument. I said I wasn't going to go to his family's house because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to be fake and put on this act to show his family we were a great couple when he's made me feel
Right.
horrible before going there. And then, yeah, a huge argument happened. And in my head, I just thought, I can't sit around and live my life for anybody else anymore. And it was that whole like thought process of,
Mm,
I can't bring children into this, I can't carry my life. And you know something, even
right.
even after everything he had done for me, I was thinking about him too. And I was thinking he also
Mm-hmm.
deserves someone that loves him, and I don't love him. And
Yeah.
maybe there's
Yeah.
someone that's more compatible for
Mm-hmm.
him. And whilst we're both young
Mm-hmm.
enough to be able to start over, I think we both deserve that
Mm-hmm.
chance. I'm not good for him, he's not good for me.
Sure.
So the best thing is for both of
Mm,
us and even the families in the situation that we go our separate ways. And it really felt like I was the only one in
yeah.
the whole situation thinking with a sane mindset, but everyone made me out to be the crazy one. And
Mm,
to this day, I still don't understand it. But then, even though I did make the decision to end things without wanting my family's permission, that cost me. everything. It cost me my
Okay.
entire life because their reaction to that then led with 6 further months of abuse and then me eventually being homeless.
Can you say a little bit more? Can you explain that? It led to six
Yeah.
months further of abuse, and
So
then you ended
when
up
I had
homeless.
made the
Can you say
decision that
that?
I was going to completely end it, me and him spoke, and he seemed to understand, okay, this is it. And I thought we had both come to an agreement that, okay, let's speak to our families and we'll end this. He calls his family over, we have a conversation with them, and they were quite calm about it. If anything, his parents, considering I was the one wanting to leave, were a lot more, I guess, respectful to me than my own family were about the situation.
Right.
And
Mm,
they came over, we had a conversation. His mum then decided to call my mum that night, even though I had asked her not to, because I said I want to be the one to speak to my mum first. But she was
mm.
something in itself. I think she was very happy for the relationship to end, but also she was the only one that seemed to be in support of it ending. But I think because she could also clearly see it wasn't working.
I'm just about. Well, I also wonder if he was the golden child,
No,
and it
there's
meant she got
that.
her baby boy
That was
back.
there's so
Okay,
many
right,
parts
right.
to this that like lead off, but
Yeah, layers. There's a
yeah,
reason he behaved the
of
way he
course,
did, and there's a reason you were
yeah.
attracted to him. And scapegoats and golden children often end
Yeah,
up
no,
in
she definitely
relationship
got
with
her
each
baby
other.
back. So that
Very,
was, yeah,
very
no, that was a
common.
huge part of it too. So she
Mm,
calls my mum that evening, and that follows with a phone call from my mum, and I'm just being absolutely screamed at down the phone, like screamed at, like, what have you done? What have you done? You've ruined your life. And the conversation we had with his parents was a very emotional one. Both me and him were crying. It wasn't an easy decision to make. Like, even though I knew I
mm,
wasn't happy and I was out of love, he was still a huge part of my life. And it was still very difficult because I
mm.
knew everything was
Endings are
going to
hard
change. So
regardless, you
it
know.
it was hard for me to also be that way towards him and be cold towards him in the end. So it was already
Mm,
a very emotional night. Everyone had been crying, and then I get this phone call from my mum. At this point, relative to my childhood, I know when there's a specific scream that haunts me from my childhood, and that's the scream I heard
mm,
down the phone that night. I knew it, it was only going to get worse from that point. So I just kind of stood there shaking in fear as to what was going to happen next. And this is me as a grown adult, still being triggered this way. The next
mm.
day, my family, all my parents come down to where I was living, and a whole family meeting takes place. And this is another thing that happens with me, where I'm always put down in interventions that doesn't happen to any other member of my family. Where if there's something I do, the whole family needs to come and sit me down in a full family meeting, and every single person in the room gives their opinion on what they think on what I'm going to do in my life. It doesn't
Oh
happen to
my
anyone else in
God.
the family. It's never happened to any of my siblings. It just happens to me. And I have to sit there in this room with every single member of the family sat around me. They all take turns to give their opinion, and then eventually they make the decision for me. And that's happened since I was a kid. And the same thing happened through my divorce, basically. So
They've conditioned you to believe
yeah,
that you can't move
yeah.
without their input.
So when they
So,
came the
go on.
next day, the energy that they came with was instantly negative, and that set the tone for how everything went down in my divorce. They didn't come with any
Right.
care or love towards me, that and with understanding that, okay, a separation is happening, and no consideration for my feelings. They came in with anger, and the minute my mum walked through the door, she glared at me with this angry, evil face. And that's also another glare that haunts me. Honestly, to this day, I have nightmares with that face that she makes. And I was absolutely humiliated in front of my in-laws. I was sat there with my in-laws in front of me, and they humiliated me in front of them. It was highlighted of how much of a degenerate I was, how much I lacked in the marriage and in my responsibilities, even though I know how much I gave into that, and I did 10 times more than what he ever did, but I will never get credit for anything. They took my car keys away from me because he paid for the car.
What?
My
Sorry,
my
who took the
parents
car
took
keys?
my
Your
car
parents
keys
or
away
his
from me
parents?
because
Why?
in our marriage that car was his and he passed the car on to me when he bought a new one. So it's like, well, he paid for it. So if you want to leave him, you don't get the perks of being with him. So give us your car keys. Yeah,
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm not excusing. I'm not saying that with the aggression towards you. I'm so sorry that I was just like,
I know.
your mother
Mm-hmm.
took your car keys as punishment for leaving
Yeah,
your husband,
yeah.
like you're a child, and she's taking your toy, but it's a right. I'm gonna just, you know what? I'm gonna go and ask you this question. If you could go back in
Mm-hmm.
time now, as you are now, and walk into that room, watching yourself being shouted at, screamed at, talked to in this way, what would you do? What would you say? What would you? Yeah, what would you do?
Knowing the personalities that were in that room, because they were very big personalities. His mum was a narcissist,
Mhm.
but from a different spectrum to the type of
Mhm.
narcissist my mum was.
Mhm.
So they were both narcissists in their own way with
Mhm.
huge personalities, and both of them two were dominating that conversation. And my stepdad and my ex's dad were the ones that were more quiet in that conversation. I really don't know. I
Right.
don't know if I would have just honestly stood up and walked out or
No, no, no. What would you do now if you,
oh
as a
right.
witness, you walked into the room and you see all these people screaming at this woman who's trying to leave her
I would have been
husband?
the
What would
voice of
you do?
reason, I think, and try to
What would you have said?
it's so difficult.
You don't need to filter it. You just
I
what's
would
coming
have
straight
told
to
them
your
all to
brain.
stick it where the sun doesn't shine.
Right. Right. I would have walked in if I had a time machine and could go back and walk into that room. I'd have said, "Get the fuck out of this house. It's none of your business. Go away. Don't contact her again until she contacts you if she wants to." How dare you treat somebody like this when they're in the most broken moment of their entire life and you are meant to be a point of support and all you are doing is adding to the pain. Get the fuck out of this room, get out of her life and leave her alone. If you can't be supportive, fuck off. That's what I'd have done. That's what I'd have said. How dare they? How dare they, Lola? How dare they come into that moment in your life and be anything other than a cushion of support? Nobody deserves that. That is the most revolting thing. That they took your car keys because he had paid
They
for
later
them.
framed it
The
as
car.
oh well, we took your car keys because we didn't want his family to think you were a gold digger.
Who gives a fuck? The fact that they even say that frame is still fucked up. Give a fuck if they think you're a gold digger. Sorry, my language has gone right down the loo. But who cares if they think that? There is no justification for treating you that way at all, ever. They're your family. If mothers can support children who have murdered people, your mother could support you going through a divorce. Through somebody with somebody who you have repeatedly tried and tried and tried to make things work with on her behest. Your mother, your mother should have been a point of support. And if she couldn't do that, she should have stayed away. And I wonder what it's like for you to hear my anger with her, and it's not at you at all. And I just want to make sure you know that. But what's it like to hear
It
that?
feels oddly validating because I feel like she has gotten away with murder her whole life,
Mm,
and
she
she has
has.
gotten away with doing unspeakable things that no one in the world knows about. And those are scars that I carry every single day of my life that
Right,
I have to live with.
right.
So nobody has ever held her accountable. And then the odd couple of times in her entire existence where people have, she holds on to it to this day. It's
How awful they are
yeah,
for saying those things to her.
everyone is
Yeah.
wrong and she's right.
How dare someone call me out?
It
Yeah.
kind of gets worse from there, really. So they take my keys, and then I was living in a flat at the time. I had wanted to really stay at that flat and for him to have gone back to his family because
Mm,
they didn't live that far away. They lived in a big house. It would have been okay for him to go back there. For me, going back home
right.
wasn't an option because home is not a safe space for me. It never has been. I left there when I was a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
but they decided, well, my ex in that situation recognized that my family were against me and used that then as an opportunity to keep me in the loop with him and said, well, actually, we've not really tried everything to make this work. So you need to listen to your parents. I then get taken away from my flat against my will at my parents.
Who took
I
you
asked
away?
them if they could at least let me go and pick up my
Right.
pajamas, pick up my toothbrush, pick up some belongings. They refused. I was taken to my parents' house with literally just my phone and my handbag at the time that I had. I was in the same clothes for 3 days. I was put up in the attic room where there was nothing but a little bed in the corner. The entire room was full of rubbish and trash.
Mm,
They treated me like I was an animal. They honestly treated me like I was an animal.
mm,
And considering the circumstance that I was in and the way that they had treated me, I could have
mm,
reacted in a much worse way than I did. And this is the thing I think that bothers me
mm,
the
mm.
most about everything is because they make out as though I was so badly behaved and I was this and I was that. I can hand on my heart promise you there was almost every single instance in that situation where I kept my mouth shut for the sake of surviving
Right.
that abuse in that situation.
Right.
I think I talked back maybe once or twice because I could overhear them having conversations about me downstairs. So I think once or twice I maybe went down and I said, if you've got something to say it to me. Don't sit and discuss me when you know I'm in the house and I can hear you. That's apparently me talking back and me being so misbehaved. Throughout that period, they were speaking to my ex behind my back. One of my siblings had a 1.5 hour phone call with him, giving him support. I had another sibling message him a full paragraph of support because he was such a victim in the situation. He was being invited to the house without my knowledge. There were days where I would walk downstairs and he'd be sat in my living room. My mum texting him, love you. I hadn't heard those words from her in maybe a year. And she's saying it to
Right.
the person I'm trying to leave.
Abusive partner.
They
Yeah.
forced me into couples therapy with him,
Jesus.
even though I said there was no point because it was a dead relationship. When we went to couples therapy, the therapist was like
Mm,
saying to him, you need to leave her alone. You need to give her some space. He could clearly see the
right.
situation and he told me I needed to get out of the family home. When I then relayed that message back to my parents, oh, no, the therapist doesn't know what he's talking about. So unless the therapist says what you want him to say according to what you want me to do in the situation, he's wrong. It was agreed that we would have a separation
So,
period of 3 months. And then at the end of those 3 months, the final decision would be made. His family said there shouldn't be any force or pressure to make anyone lean a certain way to make a decision. There should be no
mm,
contact. So my ex should not be contacting me and vice versa. I held up my end of that agreement. If it was my way, I wouldn't have done the 3 months. I would have just it would have ended there and then. But this was a full family,
mm,
like I said, full
mm.
family intervention once again, decision made. My ex harassed me every single day for those 3 months. And then he was speaking to my family behind my
Right.
back. My family knew it was meant to be a no contact separation. He was sending gifts to the house. Oh, look what he's doing. He loves you so much. You're ungrateful. I got called an ungrateful bitch by my mum. What are you bringing to the table? Blah, 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 blah. My mum and my sister then sat me down one evening. I would call down in the evening at 10 p.m. I got called down and they got a flip chart paper and drew out a timeline of my relationship from beginning to end. Oh, so this is when you met. Oh, so this is when this happened. Oh, well, we're going to scrap that because that was before you were married. So that doesn't really matter. You're not allowed to carry those issues into the marriage. This is what happened when you were married. These are the issues you have. All your reasons for wanting to leave are bullshit, is what I was eventually told. My sister then sat in my face and said, who this same sister went through a divorce 8 months prior to me and received all the
Mm,
support in the world, including from me. I was going to visit her every single week. I bought her self-help books, self-love
mm,
journals, planners, everything. The same sister looked at me and said, "You are not going to receive the same support that I received when I was getting divorced because we don't agree with your decision." I was living every single day in fear. I was waking up shaking with anxiety. I wasn't able to sleep at
mm,
night. My hair was falling out. Never really suffered with acne, but my entire face was covered in pimples. I had never seen anything like it
mm,
before.
mhm,
It was damned if I do and damned if I don't. If I
mm.
wasn't waking up at 9 o'clock in the morning, going downstairs, cooking food, cleaning the house, then I was a misbehaved daughter. But if I was staying in bed till 1 p.m. because I'm not able to sleep at night through the sheer stress and worry of my situation, then that was an issue. There was nothing I could have done that would have been right for them. I said to them, I need to
Right.
work because I don't want to be on my ass.
Mhm,
I need to have money if I'm going to leave this marriage. They took my car away from me purposely, stopped me from working. I then managed to get a job interview. I asked if someone could take me to the job interview because I didn't have a car. Oh, well, getting yourself to the interviews is your own responsibility. You've taken my means of transport away from me. So what am I supposed to do? You stopped me from working. I don't have money for a
right.
taxi. They purposely made my life more difficult so that my life with him seemed better than what I was going to get at home.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure, because they wanted you to go back. So, can you tell me then how you managed to escape?
Two very close friends at the time who I was confiding in. I wasn't able to see them in person. If it wasn't for
Mm,
them two keeping me sane and reminding me of my humanity in that situation and
mm.
what was right and what was wrong, I really don't know how I would have escaped. They told me to keep my passport with me. They said, keep a bag of clothes next to you if in any case you need to leave that house. They were actually telling me to try and run away much faster than I ended up leaving. But I was just filled with so
Oh
much
yeah,
fear because,
mm, yeah. And this is the question,
yeah.
right? People are going to be like, "Well, why didn't you just leave? Why
Yeah,
didn't
and
you just leave?" And there
I
it
didn't
is,
have any other
fear.
family
What were you
support. I
scared
didn't
of?
don't have external family, so it was like, where do I go? What do I do? I didn't have money. It
Right.
was a whole, there was a lot of factors I had to consider. So I did have this plan where in my head I thought, okay, I have a degree, I can go and get a job. So every single morning I was waking up and I was applying to jobs online. I was waking up at 6 a.m. and just relentlessly applying to every single job I could find in hopes that I would get one and that
Mm,
could be my escape out of the situation. They got wind of my plan. I don't know how. I think they maybe looked through my browser history. I don't know how they knew because I was really trying to keep everything private. Bearing in mind, even throughout this time, no,
right.
not a single
Right.
person has asked me, "Are you okay?" Not a single person has asked me, "Why do you want to leave
Right.
this marriage?" They've
Of
not even
course
sat
not. I
down
mean,
to ask or
why?
try and really hear me out to be like,
Mm,
"Okay, what is it that's made you come to this point of wanting to leave?" They didn't care to
right.
know. All they wanted was for me to stay. They didn't care for my reasons. So I
Mm,
applied to all these
mm.
jobs, and then fast forward, all this stuff has happened. I eventually end up managing to get myself a job. They tried to stop me from taking the job. And then a family member of mine is a psychologist. So my mom kind of also forced me to go and have a conversation with him because then apparently now I've got bipolar disorder. Apparently now I've got all these mental illnesses, and that's what's making me behave in this erratic way. Not just that I'm a human being that's come to a decision that I don't want to be in an abusive
Mm,
relationship anymore.
mm,
They had to come up with all these things that
mm,
made me I'm just not normal. So I had to go have an evaluation with him, to which I explained my entire life to him. He told me it was meant to be confidential. It wasn't confidential. He then went back to my mom and told her everything that was said. That then led to 2 o'clock in the morning,
Jesus.
being brought down, and I was lectured for 5 hours. Prior to this as well, I think 2 weeks prior, my ex was invited to my house without my permission or knowledge. and he arrived at the house at 2 p.m. I was sat on the sofa up until 9 p.m. So it had been 7 hours of me being sat on that sofa in that one position, and him and my mum were just
Mm,
going at me for 7 hours straight, both of them just obliterating my entire existence. And even in front of him, my mum swearing at me, calling me every name under the sun, screaming at me. She, if, and this is the thing, if people are going to see your own family treat you in a certain way, why are they going to respect you? Why are they going to hold you to?
mm. But there's also the part of this, again, is really common, where an abusive parent encourages an abusive partner because it means you're still
Yeah.
enslaved, you're still trapped, you're still malleable and manipulated and driven down and ground down and all of those things.
Hmm.
I'm a little bit conscious of our time, and I, you know, wonder really
Yeah.
how you've got to where you are now and what it is that you're really struggling with still now, that you're
Yeah.
fearful of in terms of future relationships. What the kind of footprint is
Yeah.
that's still sitting there
So when
and
the final
impacting
conversation
you.
happened with my mum, it was one night after 5 hours of being lectured and sworn at and screamed at and told how horrible of a person I was. I was then told to pack my bags and fuck off.
Mm,
So she said she disowns me. She said she disowned
right.
me.
So
And
she
I
kicked
said,
you out.
you've said it now. Don't take that back. You've said it now. I'm taking your word seriously.
Good for
That's
you.
it. She went, yeah. So I went to sleep, woke up the next day. The family had all gone out and just left me at home. And I managed to get my car
Right.
keys. Luckily, all my things were already in bin bags because I was living out of bin bags at the time. And I just left. And I remember getting in the car and I didn't know where I was going. I was just hyperventilating and I just got on the road and I just drove and I just drove and I just drove. And that's kind of how I ended up basically homeless.
Must
I
have
was
been
couch surfing on
terrified.
friends' sofas, but I did have a job, and I think that was the thing that got me through. Because in my head, I was like, get yourself to the job, and then you'll be
Mm-hmm.
fine. So I did relocate to another
Mm-hmm.
country, and since then, I
Yeah.
think it's massively helped me.
How, sorry, how did you get from living out of bin bags, sofa surfing to
It was through the job.
another country? How
The
did
job
that
was in
happen?
the new country, so I managed to get that job, and then the company
Right.
paid for the plane ticket, so it saved me. Yeah.
This is amazing. Can I just notice to you how phenomenal that is? That you've been in this environment where you've been so controlled, you can't even have your own car keys, you can't do anything, you're not allowed to get, they didn't want you to get a job. That all these, like, this huge amount of control of you're not allowed to leave without their permission even, this level of control that you've experienced would create in somebody a huge amount of dependency and a real struggle to be able to be independent and rely on themselves for fear of making mistakes, for fear of getting it wrong, for all the different reasons you're conditioned into being controlled or why you need to be controlled. And the very fact that you got on that plane to go to another country, to start a new life alone with no support system, nobody at the end of the phone kind of looking after you, looking out for you, making sure you had enough money to pay bills or whatever it might be, making sure that you're eating properly and that you're even coming home at night, that you're safe. To manage to go from that environment to a different country,
Thank you.
like, that's phenomenal. That the I really hate the trope about being strong. I really dislike it, and I'm sure you've seen me talk about it lots of times before. That I find it insulting, dismissive, disrespectful, and minimizing. With you, I want to acknowledge that strength because it's one thing to leave the abusive relationship. Huge strength is needed for that. But to leave the country, to to remove yourself so adamantly and take such a huge risk that many people would dream of doing but never actually do because of that fear, that shows that within you is a fortitude that is immeasurable. And I don't mean that in a like, look at you can tolerate everything. I mean, acknowledge it. There is a something in you that is so intensely brave, and your will to survive is, I mean, it's just massive. You said at the beginning it was this or death, and you weren't wrong. Like that situation was escalating so much that it may well have actually become that. And I mean, I genuinely mean that. I'm not being hyperbolic. That
Yeah,
is
it's
something
true.
that we see. You know, it's a story that is often told, and the fact that you escaped it. You know, have you ever seen Matilda the musical?
I've not seen the musical, no.
You read the book.
Yeah.
Relate to the book? I mean, that's why I called it Matilda syndrome, because of that need to escape, right?
Yeah, I massively see myself in a character.
Yeah, in
Um,
her. There's a song in the musical. Every time I hear it, even as I'm talking about it, I'm getting chills. And it's called A Little Bit Naughty. Oh, I could cry just even thinking about it, just because of our emotion and everything else. She says some, oh God, I'm going to massively mess up the lyrics. It's basically along the lines of, you have to change your own story. If you just grin and bear it, that means you're okay with it, and that's not okay. Sometimes you have to be a little bit naughty. And there's this child talking about not accepting your fate. And that's you right there. You did not accept your fate. You pushed back and you changed your story. And the fortitude, the strength, the courage that took, the bravery is, I don't, it's immeasurable. And
it
it's
was
amazing.
honestly,
And it's not because of your trauma, it's in spite of it.
yeah,
And it's also, it would have been there regardless, right? That's your character has that. That's not because of what you've experienced. It's you, inherently part of you.
yeah.
And I see I've touched something there. And
Yeah, it's just, like I said, it's just very rare for it to be seen in that way, especially when it's been framed to
mm,
be such a horrific thing that I did. Because getting on that plane, honestly, was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
I bloody bet it was.
Because for a lot of people who came to this country on the same kind of journey on me in this career, had families to see them off at the airport and had people to at least say goodbye to them. I didn't have that. I went there by myself. I got on the plane by myself, landed here by myself. And like you said, this whole feeling of there's no one on the phone calling to even check how I'm surviving or if I'm eating well or how I'm paying bills or how I'm getting through.
Mm,
And whilst I'm in a much better place now, I have grown immensely in these 2 years. And sometimes I
mm,
just want to go back to that girl 2 years ago and just like give her a hug because I can't believe
yeah.
like what she went through. But the thing that has really got me through, as much as I'm still very sensitive to a lot of things.
Mm-hmm,
uh, I really do recognize it within myself, and I have really tried
mm-hmm,
to be kinder to myself, and I think that's what I'm trying to do to
mm-hmm,
break this cycle, is being kinder to
mm.
myself and recognizing my own strengths. And I'm aware that I wouldn't have like
You
like
made me go a little bit. I'm just sorry. Go on,
like
carry on.
and I
You
know I say that I don't know how I survived, but I also
right.
do know how I survived. I saved myself.
You
And
yes, you bloody did.
there's a
Say that again, like proudly. Like you saved
I saved
yourself.
myself.
Yeah, you did.
There's also a poem that I've seen online where it makes me cry every time I read it.
Mm,
Um, and it says, I walked up to my 9-year-old self sitting on the bed. I don't know if you've
mm,
seen it. And
No, I
She's
haven't. And I imagine it's going to get me too. Go
yeah,
on.
I'm probably gonna butcher it as well, but it's something along the lines of I saw
No.
my 9-year-old self sitting on a bed, and she's got her face in her hands, and she looks up at me and she says, "Does it get better?" And
Don't, you're making me
I
go mad.
know,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and then I say, and she holds her in a child's hand and says, "Not for a long time." And then she
Mm.
says, "Who saves us?" And then she says, "We do. We save ourselves." So I think,
Imagine everyone's crying along as we're listening to us,
um,
because it's so emotive, because that is all, that is the truth of being
yeah,
the scapegoat. You save yourself,
yeah,
no one else does it for you. And in your situation, you had to work a lot harder to save yourself than many.
yeah,
And here it is again, this thing of, for your survival, you had to cut yourself off. And it wasn't easy on any level.
yeah,
And anybody that ever suggests it was
yeah.
is an idiot, first of all. Sorry, carry on. I interrupted.
I think my mindset is so now in where I am in life in recovering from that, my mindset is definitely, I think being away in a whole new environment has
Mm,
been something that's massively helped. Had I been in that same environment, I don't know how I would have progressed from there.
no.
So coming here and being in a new environment massively helped, being around new people, being able to reinvent myself in a way, being around
Mm,
people who don't know my story and don't know who I am was a way for me. It was like a breath of fresh air in a
mm,
way. Um, I think also I know what I've been through, and I don't want that for myself for the future. And I'm so determined in ensuring that I break the cycle and I'm not going to continue that. So I think I wake up every day with that goal in mind that,
mm.
okay, take it one day at a time. Some days it's hard to get out of bed.
Of course.
And I still obviously experience that, especially when in the first few months, I was experiencing nightmares and there was still a lot of stressors and triggers. But now I'm older and I'm able to step away from the situation. And I think also I am very secure in my truth.
Good.
And I think I've managed to really step away from those invisible strings that kept me latched onto that, the permission seeking and the validation seeking from them, because the lives that they live are not necessarily the life that I want to live. So why was I seeking all this permission from them? And I guess it's also just a normal part of growing up. I'm able to see things from a different perspective. So I'm definitely in a much better place now. I've been able to create a whole life for
Good.
myself. Been able to hit career steps and accomplish things here. And I know that's all me.
Yeah,
And I
it
think
is.
that's also something that
Good.
allows me to look in the mirror and see this
Mm-hmm.
is me. My mom
Mm,
didn't do this for me.
mm-hmm.
My siblings didn't do this for me. I'm in this country by myself. I made a home here. So everything I'm accomplishing is all my own credit. Nobody in the world can take that away from
Mm,
me. So that helps me internally, but there are just still these moments with relationships where,
right.
let's say I meet somebody, I get asked, "Oh, where's your family from in the
Mm-hmm.
UK? Like, where are you from?" Or, "Oh, have you gone home to visit family?" Or,
Mm-hmm.
just those conversations are very difficult because it's like, do I lie? Do we have a 2-hour conversation opening up about all of this? And
Mm.
that's just and just I guess there's an innate fear in me of rejection based on my story, I
Okay.
guess.
All right. I'm going to jump in and I'm going to say straight away, then it's a bullshit filter. If someone rejects you for surviving what you've described, then get them gone. Like, that is not someone you need around you. You know, I've ventured into the dating world a little bit recently, and what a shit show, first of all. But second
It's
of all,
horrible.
oh, Lord.
Actually, like realizing I'm actually much better single and I'll probably
I
just
mean,
adopt.
wow. Right? So, but one of the things that is an immediate red flag for me is someone who says, you know, family priority being like a big thing for them, and like someone who's really family orientated. Well, I am to my children, but not necessarily the other people that are not in my life. And if someone is going to dump me on the grounds that I protected myself from abuse, good. Because all they're saying to me is that they want to tolerate me to tolerate abuse, right?
Hmm.
Because that, even that thing of someone who's family orientated, well, what does that mean? Because who are you looking for them to prioritize? And well, like, what does that actually tell you about somebody? other than they might keep quiet and not rock the boat, or, there's a very different thing to having a healthy family and enjoying being around them, and having an unhealthy family and having to protect yourself from them, and having an unhealthy family and tolerating the behavior because you want to keep the peace and be family orientated. So first of all, if someone's going to reject you on those grounds, let them do it, because that's protecting you ultimately. That's showing you that they have a value system that doesn't allow for alternate experience, and that in itself is a fucking red flag, because we don't all have the same experience. Okay? So yeah, so what else are you fearful of kind of in those adult relationships kind of thing?
I think also how I may come across or how I
Right,
present myself, because
right.
I have to keep reminding myself from the outside, no one can see that. I mean, a lot of people that meet me, the ones that I trust and I've gotten close to when I've opened up, have been sat there in utter shock, because
Mm,
like from the way that you present yourself and talk, you would never in a million years think you've experienced what you have. So I think it's because it's within me. Sometimes I do have this, I guess, fear again of being in the outside world, and I can navigate it, but it's just I
mm.
feel like I've developed maybe a bit of an avoidant attachment style in the past couple of years.
Well, it would make sense that you would.
And like if someone tries to get close to me now, I get a bit scared, and I'm like, oh, I don't want them to get too close, because then they'll see me as vulnerable, and my vulnerability will come out, and I have to be strong, because if I'm not strong and I don't have this tough exterior, then it shows the cracks.
What happens if they see those cracks, if they see the vulnerability?
I feel like it makes me less desirable.
Is it less desirable? Is it more vulnerable and more
Yeah, it's a
easily?
mixture of it all, really, like less desirable, more
Mhm.
vulnerable, not with the inside. I mean, not the inside, sorry. If like the life, I guess, doesn't match the, I don't know if I'm even wording this right. Like if people see me and they from the surface level, they'll meet me for the first time and I'm
Mhm.
normal and I'm bubbly and talking, and then they get to know me and it's like, oh, I don't know why, I just feel like a burden.
Mm. Well, you've been taught you're a burden your entire bloody life,
That's the thing.
right?
I can't escape that feeling.
Okay, so let's think about the word love, right? And I was talking about this on the hub just now. We did a coaching call this morning. We were talking about the word love and really understanding our subjective interpretation of it. If you're scared of rejection, of saying no, have no idea how to trust people, you're not alone, and you don't have to heal alone either. That's what the Hub is for. It's a membership community designed for survivors just like you. Every month, we dive into powerful courses, we hold live calls, and connect in a supportive, understanding space so you can break free from the past and build healthy, fulfilling relationships. Maybe it's time to stop surviving and instead start thriving. Visit jointhehub.ac today using the code POD20 to get £20 off your first month's membership. I can't wait to see you there. Take care. Bye. Because when we grow up in these environments, the word love becomes weaponized, it becomes conditional, it becomes
Hmm.
all these different things. There's a little video on my socials about it at the moment. Because the word love becomes a weapon that is something hurtful rather than it becomes a straitjacket. That was the word I used today. It becomes a straitjacket, a version of us that is constrained and contained and conditional and only want to see this very thin sliver of your personality, which lines up with absolutely everything I think a human being should be. And we
Hmm.
think then that if we receive love from other people, it means they only want that sliver too. But if I said to you that getting into relationships, let me just give an analogy of it. Getting into relationships with people is a bit like peeling an onion, holding up the skin that you've just peeled, the bit that you've just peeled, so asking them, do you like this bit? Or does this make you not want any of the onion at all? And
Hmm.
then they get to decide whether or not they're rejecting this part that you're showing them, or the whole onion or whatever it might be. And then we have to decide, if they say, actually, I don't like that part, I never want to see it, we have to decide whether we're willing to either hide that part or work on it so it's not impacting in whatever way. And it might just be as simple as, I don't know, pulling your ear or something. I really dislike it when people tug on their ears, a stupid thing. But am I willing to be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't like me tugging on my ear, even though I like tugging on my ear? Would I be willing to stop doing that for this person? Don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Depends what else is being offered in the relationship or what other conditions are being offered. But you peel this onion off until you kind of have exposed the entire onion. And it's a risky process because each time you peel a layer, you're revealing a bit more of yourself. You're becoming more and more vulnerable. And it's about deciding whether that person is safe enough to reveal those parts too. But the other part is, when we grow up in these environments, we learn that people love us in spite of ourselves, that the love we are offered is in spite of the fact that we're naughty, we're dramatic, combative, don't do anything, that we stir trouble, that we are a difficult child, that we're this, that, and the other, all these very negative, awful things. We're taught that we're loved in spite of those things. But as adults, when you get into relationships with people, they love you because of those things. They love you, well, they don't even necessarily think those things exist because they probably don't. They were just cast upon you. But people, as an adult in relationships, you're looking for people who love you because of who you are, not in spite of who you are, right? And if your vulnerability is something that is then weaponized against you, if your trauma is weaponized against you, that is a sign to remove yourself. Because anybody who's going to love you authentically and properly is going to do it to hold all that stuff with you. They're going to share the load of it. They're not going to use it to keep you stifled and in a straitjacket and as evidence of how hard you are to love. They're going to tell you it makes you easier to love, right?
Yeah.
How does that feel or seem for you?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It seems normal as well, like listening to that, because, like I said, I see all these relationships around me. I see sibling relationships or people with their parents and how their parents treat them. And it literally is, I see it, the unconditional love that they receive.
Right.
And it's just such an unknown feeling to me of
Mm.
receiving love, regardless to whether someone's in a bad mood or they've done something. And it's like, because I've always had, if let's say I've spilt something on the floor,
Mm.
everyone, like, that's hung up on a poster for everyone to see. Like, she's done this bad thing and now she needs to spend the next 3 days saying sorry for it. Like, that's always how my actions have been treated.
Mm.
So it's just such an alien thing. But I don't want it to be alien. I'm really trying to learn to accept that and like allow that type of energy, I guess,
Yeah.
into my life, because that's how I would want to be with my children. I would want to give them unconditional love. And I just, yeah, I think a lot of it is obviously to do with rewiring your brain and
Mm.
rewiring,
Mm.
like, how, especially because I've had to do a lot of research into everything to understand
Yeah.
everything I've been through, and especially when it comes to like my dissertation I did on ACEs and understanding
Wow.
like the neuroscience and how the first, like the cognitive development of your brain is affected massively in the first few years of your
Mm.
development, and when you're going through abuse. And I have 9 out of the 10 ACEs, so it's like I understand that it's not going to be an easy journey for me,
Mm.
and it's taken a lot to accept that. Like I said, combating this whole why me question, it's just, I need to, I guess, learn when I walk out the door not to feel or believe that everything is written on my face. Like, nobody can see it.
Right.
It's just in my
Yeah.
head.
Right. There are a couple of things there. One of the things that's really important is understanding what unconditional love means to you. Because for me, or certainly what I'll see is that people will say, well, unconditional love is just doing whatever you want. You can't just do whatever you want and not be held accountable for it. No, no, no. Unconditional love isn't behavior without consequence. It's love that isn't withdrawn when you are, you know, not living up to somebody else's expectations and
Mm-hmm.
demand of who you should be. It's
Yeah.
love without condition. I do not hold it as a weapon or a thing to be earned. It is a thing that is given freely and joyfully. Yes, if you cross my boundaries over and over again, if you hurt me, then I may well end a relationship. But it's not on the basis that you are inherently bad. It's because I have to protect myself, right?
Yeah.
There's a big difference. And the idea of why me, which, you know, you said at the beginning is the question that goes round and round for you. I'm going to ask you to just maybe flip the script. And instead of asking why me, whenever you start hearing that, what if you were to ask why them? What would that do for you? Anything, do you think, if you change that question?
I feel like I do that as well, but
Okay.
maybe not in the correct way
Okay, so when you
because
say why them, what do you answer it back with? What are you actually asking in that moment?
it if I let's say I was to look at someone and their mums, they've got a lovely relationship with their mum, for example, and if I say like why them, why do they deserve that, I guess, then in my head I would list all the good reasons why, but I
Mm-hmm.
would still like acknowledge or list, I guess, the reasons why I don't, if that makes sense. It's still in a
Okay.
sense of comparing, and I don't want to
Yeah.
do that.
This seems like meaning making. And meaning making is something we do when we're trying to avoid grief. And that then makes me wonder whether or not you've actually properly grieved what has happened to you. Because you were so busy
Um,
surviving.
I say this, I have said this to a couple of my friends, is I do notice in moments, especially in the past couple of years, because I'm a teacher, which is
Right, okay.
ironic
Mm-hmm.
because it's just the perfect job. And I
Why?
poured
Why is that?
so
Sorry, why is
much
that ironic? And why is it?
because I feel like a lot of people who are empaths tend to go into these
Okay.
career fields.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've
Okay.
always been very good with children ever since I was
Okay.
young, like children, babies, animals. I've always just had a very natural like incline towards them. And the being in this job has been amazing for me because the children every single day pour me with so much love
Mm-hmm.
that it really helped to heal me in the
Mm-hmm.
ways I really needed since the divorce. But I've forgotten the question. Sorry,
You are, when
mistake.
I talking about meaning making grief, have you actually grieved? And you
Oh,
said,
yes.
yeah.
Sorry. So I feel like it's also a job that's very intense. There's a lot of responsibility, and the children deserve 100% of your energy when you walk in. And I
Are
feel
you,
like
I'm going to interrupt you because I'm conscious of time, but I want to, but I also notice you justifying why you haven't grieved. Is that what you're doing?
maybe.
Calling it out. Are you justifying why you don't have time to do the grieving? Because you haven't got time to fall apart? That it's going to overwhelm you so much you won't be able to be the teacher they need you to be. So you won't be able to be in service to other people because your needs are not as important as theirs.
Maybe.
Yeah. Can you hear there's a repeating pattern even there?
Hmm.
Deny my needs to make other people happy. But it's
Yeah.
justified because they're kids. So,
However, I did make the decision to leave that job,
okay,
and this is one step I'm taking towards a
excellent,
brighter future because as much as I love the job, I recognize that it was taking away from me, and I
brilliant,
recognize I wasn't able to give what that job requires. And I've now got myself another job that I start tomorrow, which is much more up my street. It's going to allow me to be more creative and work with social
amazing,
media, which is what I enjoy.
cool,
So I'm definitely now also taking steps to give myself that time that I need because I do
excellent.
recognize I haven't done that in the past 2 years as well.
Yeah, that question, why me, is a grief question. Why me? Why does
Hmm.
this have to happen to me? Why them? Why do they get all the love? Actually, when I said why them, I was thinking about your family of origin and thinking about why are they so vile?
Oh, okay.
right? Why are they behaving in that way? Or why did they treat me that way? Ultimately, what I'm saying is, instead of why me, as in self-blaming, it's why them,
Right, yeah, yeah. Look,
right?
yeah, I understand.
Looking at the behavior of them rather than the impact on you, or it's not your lack. Their inability to love you is not because you are not lovable, it's because they cannot love you, right?
Yeah.
Again, not because of your lovability, but because there is something fundamentally flawed in them. Okay?
They
Go on.
genuinely claim, sorry, I know,
Go on.
just
No,
to
no.
close up, they genuinely claim they did nothing wrong. They believe, I think they've honestly convinced themselves that they did everything they could to support me, because I think maybe once or twice they told me I should go for a walk. So even though I was being told, we're not going to emotionally support you throughout your divorce, we've taken your car keys away from you, we've stopped you from working, we're swearing at you and calling you names all the time, we're talking behind your back, go for a walk. And that's us giving you support throughout your divorce. And how dare you not appreciate or acknowledge that we told you to go join the gym and go for a
Mm,
walk. That wasn't the thing that would help me in that situation. I needed the emotional support, not to
of
go to the
course you
gym and
did.
walk on a treadmill, but they just can't understand that concept. But to this day, they completely still make out as though I was this horrific person. I was this bomb that disrupted the whole family. Apparently, everyone is traumatized by my divorce. My divorce affected everyone. I have another sibling who's going through a divorce now.
Mm,
Complete support. It's just me. For some reason, it's just me. Mine was the one that altered the entire family. And I think another thing that's kind of helped me as of very recently is since I kind of accepted that there's nothing I can do. And
mm,
I think in my head for a long time, I was expecting apologies. I was expecting
mm,
them to feel bad. I was expecting them to suddenly wake up one day and realize, oh my
mm,
God, what have we done? And I was waiting for that every single day. I kept living every day thinking, I'm gonna get justice.
mm,
I didn't take revenge because that's not who I am. I truly
mm,
believe in life and karma. But in my heart, I was like, justice, 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 it'll come, it'll come, it'll come. And I think I've really kind of learned in this past year, the justice is me creating
mm.
a beautiful life for myself.
Right.
It's not
Exactly.
them standing up on the stand and putting their hand up and saying, yes, we did this. And I think
No.
I'm still accepting it. I don't think I've maybe fully accepted it, but I'm just coming to terms with the idea of they'll believe what they need to believe. They will never
Mm.
own up to what they've done. They'll never apologize. And I need to stop waiting around for that because
Yes. The thing
there's no
is,
point.
there's a very cruel trick that is taught to you as the scapegoat, as the victim of any abuse, is that you are taught that if you just behave well enough, if you just meet whatever expectation they have, or do the right thing, or be the person they want you to be, or if you just explain it properly, even, they will understand and they will treat you better. They they kind of convince you that you have the power to decide how they treat you. Meanwhile, you have no power at all.
Hmm.
And it's that truth, that you never had the power to determine how they treated you,
Yeah.
that is where a huge amount of grief will often lie. And when we're sitting in that space of kind of moving towards an acceptance or trying to accept it, it's letting go of the hope that we ever had any power to change how they treated us, and actually accepting that they made that decision themselves, and nothing we could have done would have changed that outcome because they had decided that for themselves.
Yeah.
It wasn't on you. It wasn't your fault. You weren't the problem. If an entire system is punishing and penalizing one person and supporting all the others, then it's the system that's fucked up, not the individual being punished for the same thing that other people are getting support for,
Yeah.
right? That's not on you. You were never the problem. You're not the problem. You might have wounds now that do need healing before you go into relationships, so that they don't spill into those relationships and ruin them, so that you can tolerate criticism for growth rather than shame, so
Yeah.
that you can accept rejection and see it as a bonus rather than a negative. seeing it as somebody removing themselves from something that they know will not serve either of you. That moment where you said it wasn't good for either of us to be in this relationship, including him. I didn't love him. He deserves someone who loves them. You do too. And so when now you're in a relationship and someone says it's not working, that's not them saying that you are broken or you are flawed. That's them saying, whatever it is that I need, I'm not getting in this relationship. Doesn't mean that someone else isn't going to get it from you, that what they need. It's just our needs are not aligning. And it doesn't mean that you are, it's not evidence of you being not good enough. It is just that you're not right for that person. And they may not be right for you either, you know?
Yeah.
So before we finish, Lola, is there anything that we haven't answered that you need from me now, or that we need to go over at all? Any questions that you've got left sitting?
No, I fear that if we do that, we'll be on here for another 5 hours.
Well, I'm sure we could do, yeah.
Um,
Go on.
but I think, yeah, I think my main focus was, I know we obviously touched on kind of the story of what happened during the divorce, because it is obviously the key, most recent thing that affects, I guess, how I operate now. But it was just mainly, I wanted to talk about navigating relationships now and not operating from that place of lack or feeling like I wasn't good enough, because I feel like even though I might not verbalize it, subconsciously, if I'm thinking that, I know it's going to affect me in some way. So I'm still learning, I'm still on my journey, but this has been really insightful. And also just been, like I said, really oddly validating, because it's not a situation I would want to be in. Of course, nobody voluntarily orphans themselves. Nobody ever does that if nothing ever happened to them. So I think I'm just still learning healthy coping mechanisms, standing, I guess, strong in my own truth and knowing what I experienced and what I went through, and not allowing anyone to like further gaslight me into thinking I didn't go through what I did. And I guess just that feeling, I think maybe it's a feeling of abandonment as well. That
Yeah.
is part of that whole feeling of they're gonna leave, because I've that wound has constantly been triggered since I was young, like my father first leaving, and then my whole family, and then yeah, it can just be difficult, I think, to navigate with friendships and relationships. So I need to learn to not place so much reliance on other people. I need to really put that within, which can be hard sometimes.
Really hard, especially after everything you've been through and the upbringing you've had. What I will offer you is usually the key to all of those things is about your own identity, and really working. If I can offer you nothing else, go and build up your self-knowledge, who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what your character pluses and minuses are. Know yourself so that when you go into relationship, those edges are so well defined that you know that when someone is saying you are these things, that's not who I am. If you're perceiving that, that's about you, not me. But you're able also to hear you are those things and go, am I? Let me think about that. Where is that happening? Shall I look at it? And then make a decision as to what it is, the reflection. We need to be able to hear criticism and know when to absorb and process and adjust, and when to not deflect, but to reject criticism because it's a projection, right?
Yeah.
We need to know when those two things are happening, because projection is confession. Somebody telling you you are a thing that you like, I don't think that's true about me. Actually, what are you telling me about yourself? Or what are you trying to convince me I am, so I'm silent? You know, there's giant red flags, but having those defined edges, if you've got a really good sense of identity, then you get good boundaries. If you have good boundaries, then you can trust yourself. If you can trust yourself, you will know that you can leave a relationship that is not working for you. You will know that you will keep yourself safe when you see something bad happening, and you will not need other people's permission. If you have good identity, you have good boundaries. And if you have good boundaries, you are listening to yourself, because you will notice when they are crossed. And you will know whether you are those things or not that are being said to you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, identity is key. Okay.
Yeah.
Lola, thank you so very, very much for coming on, for sharing so much with us. Thank you for allowing my tears, for being so brave with me and honest with me. And I just want to remind you that after this, if you need to ask any questions, you just ping me an email. Just know that this isn't the end of, I don't just cut you off and send you on your way. That if there's something that you're like, Helen, I didn't understand that bit, or I need clarity on that, just ping me an email and I will, of course, respond. And yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. Your videos have helped me massively in understanding so much over the years. So it's been really great to actually get to speak to you one-on-one today. It's something I always wanted. I remember applying to be on the podcast, I think last year or the year before, like desperately. I was like, I want to talk to her. I want to talk to us. So no, it's been great. And thank you for your time and your understanding. It's really comforting. So thank you.
Good. Well, my absolute pleasure. And I'm really glad you applied again. Thank you for sharing. And I'm glad that the videos helped you and all of that. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, Lola, so much, and everybody listening. And I guess, as ever, all that remains to be said is take care. Bye.